the live chat here. If there's been a lot of asymptomatic spread, which is one of the things that we're hearing in the news quite a bit, aren't we already close to herd immunity? And can we go back to normal at this point? Amanda, you want to tackle that one? And then I think maybe Jen will have some insights there too.
Yeah, so we do suspect that there's a fair amount of asymptomatic transmission with this virus. There's been a few small studies that have tried to quantify the extent to which that's happening, but on a large scale, I don't think we have a good sense of exactly what proportion of the population has been already exposed. And to find that out, we need to institute large population-based studies where we test for antibodies to determine sort of who has the presence of antibodies. That would give us some indication what proportion of people might have been already exposed. And then beyond that, I think we need to learn more about how long immunity lasts or what sort of antibody levels mean in terms of the extent to which you might have immunity. So there's a fair number of questions, even once we get a sense of who's been exposed to the pathogen, how long, and to what extent immunity might last over time. And so I think there's a few unknowns out there right now around that. And I'll turn it over to Jen to add.
Yeah, I'll just add, because I've been seeing a lot of questions about this too. And I think we would all love to find out that there's been a lot more asymptomatic infections than we're aware of, because it would mean that possibly the fatality rates are not as high as we think, which would be great news. But as Amanda said, there's been a few studies, and even in real hot spots, there was one study in Germany in one particular town that was hit hard, and they found, I think, around 13 or 14% evidence that percentage had been previously exposed in a very heavily hit area. And I think the other thing to remember is that in order to approach herd immunity, and Malia might know better, but we think at least something like 60 or 70% of the population would need to be exposed. So I think all the studies that are coming out now are going to be helpful in helping us understand, but I don't think we're going to suddenly find out that we're super close to herd immunity. So I don't think it's going to dramatically change the actions that we have to take to protect, 60 to 70% of the population from getting it going forward. So it is something I think the sero studies that Amanda mentioned are going to help answer. And I believe Governor Cuomo just said that New York State is planning to do that in a systematic way. So given how heavy of infections they've had, that will be a really useful study to give us a sense of the overall prevalence. But overall, I think we have to not count on that as an exit strategy, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll agree. And I'll just add, one of the things that I've heard this number being tossed around, that we need to get to 20 or 30% for herd immunity. I have been trying to track down where that misinformation came from. That is not a good estimate of what we would need for herd immunity for this disease. The actual number is not known yet, how many people we would need to have population level protection against further spread, but it's, just based on what we know already about the disease dynamics, it's going to be at least 60%, and my guess is much higher, probably near 80. So we're nowhere near herd immunity at this point. If we had 80% of people exposed already, I think we would have seen the corresponding people showing up in the hospital with severe symptoms much earlier. So I just don't think it's possible for the disease to have spread through 80% of the population so far.